Sherwin Bryce-Pease now joins us live from New York. Sherwin, good evening. Thanks so much for your time. What do we know about these devices so far?
Well, let's just update you on the CNN situation, because that's kind of the fluid, moving situation at this time. Of course, that building, the Time Warner Center, which houses CNN's headquarters at Columbus Circle here in Manhattan, was evacuated some 4.5 hours ago. People remain outside of the building. The device, the suspicious bomb-like device, has successfully been removed by the New York Police Department's bomb squad. It was taken in a bomb-secure vehicle north of the city to an area in the Bronx, where we are told it will be screened and likely detonated in a safe, confined space. But the building remains evacuated because part of that package included some white powder in the mail sorting room of that building. So you have teams down there, forensic analysts that are examining this white powder, and law enforcement officials keeping a cordon around this building until they've been able to identify what this white powder is and determined whether it would be safe for the occupants of that building to re-enter. Of course, let's just confirm the number of devices we are talking about here in New York State and in Washington, D.C., the capital, starting off with George Soros, the billionaire philanthropist who funds liberal and democratic causes in the United States. That was the first package identified at his upstate New York home on Monday. Since then, a package addressed to Hillary Clinton at the home she shares with former President Bill Clinton in Chappaqua, Westchester County, north of Manhattan. That was intercepted through regular screening that is done by Secret Service officials. The Obamas were sent a package to their home in the Washington, D.C. area. As we've confirmed, the New York Times Square CNN package. We also understand that a package was sent to former Attorney General Eric Holder. Eric Holder, of course, head of the Justice Department in the Obama administration. And that package had a return address to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is the former chairperson of the Democratic National Committee, a senior congressperson for the Democratic Party. So that Eric Holder device was returned to Debbie Wasserman Schultz's office in a place called Sunrise, Florida. That's just south from where we are. And we understand that a number of packages in a mail sorting facility in Maryland, in a place called Capitol Heights. This is a mail sorting facility that services Capitol Hill. So you're talking about senators and Congress people. A number of packages, we are told, are being monitored and have been observed and could possibly also contain some devices. I also earlier tweeted a picture of the pipe bomb-like device that was intercepted at CNN's headquarters here in New York. Literally a pipe bomb with some wires coming out. So that bomb has been contained. A number of these devices have been contained. What we are now seeing from law enforcement is a nationwide investigation to try and piece together and find linkages as to whether there is, in fact, one person sending these devices or multiple people sending them, but they're trying now to form linkages between these various devices, of course, in D.C., upstate New York, and here in Manhattan.
Sherwin, a very concerning situation if it does turn out that these devices are bombs or explosive. Talk to us about the official words that you've been getting and sourcing.
Well, they are. I mean, certainly the one that was removed from CNN, to quote law enforcement officials, they said that this is the real deal. So, and so it was contained very quickly. You saw people dispersed from the building, moved away blocks as the police put a perimeter around the CNN's headquarters and then sent in the bomb squad. And then you saw a truck, a bomb-like with a hollowed-out back, was reversed into the CNN building, and the device was placed in the secure truck, and then it was ferried out of the city on the highway with a police escort. We don't have information as to whether the device has been detonated as yet, but it is certainly outside of the populous area that Manhattan and certainly New York City is. We all, New York residents, received an alert sent out on our cell phones saying to shelter in place when this device was being detonated. But since then, we've received an updated alert to say that the device has been successfully removed from the building. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, concern about that white powder that was found in the same package. And so the quarantined area of the New York, the CNN's mailroom, in I imagine a basement of that building, is still quarantined as forensic scientists take a look to determine what this powder is. We also heard from the Vice President of the United States quickly condemning these attempts or acts, as he called it. This is Mike Pence, the Vice President of the United States, acts of violence in the strongest term, condemning these. He called them cowardly acts, which are despicable and have no place in American society. That statement was retweeted by the President of the United States. And to quote the President, he said he wholeheartedly agreed with the Vice President Mike Pence. Just to update you on what local law enforcement and officials are saying, Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York, spoke to the media earlier today. He called this an effort to terrorize. It was intended to terrorize. It was to undermine free press and the leadership of this country. People of New York will not be deterred. And of course, the canvas to all of this is that we are less than 2 weeks away from the midterm congressional elections. Essentially, all members of the House of Representatives are running for re-election, and a third of the Senate. And so there is a great deal of concern that the rhetoric, the political rhetoric in this country has reached boiling point. The personal attacks are quite vociferous. And so you heard from the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, and Mayor Bill de Blasio calling for a cooling of heads. To quote the mayor, we don't want to incite violence or disagreement. Personally, there is an atmosphere of hatred. Let's bring down the temperature. And I think you will hear that echoed by leaders as we move forward throughout the day here.
Sherwin, as we're about to wrap up, have you heard anything or seen anyone claiming responsibility for any of these incidences, whether it was from George Soros, Hillary Clinton, former President Barack Obama, or even the CNN one, or any whispers about who may be behind these threats?
The speculation right now is that this is domestic. This was an attempt at domestic terrorism. So they are certainly looking internally. I don't think we've heard anything at this point to suggest that this might have come from outside of the country. But as I was talking to Peter Ndoro earlier on SABC News, people tend to claim responsibility for attacks when they are successful. And as yet, none of these devices have exploded. There have been no injuries. There are no casualties. There are no real victims in that sense. So it will be very strange for them to claim responsibility without being able to do a victory lap, as it were. So these have been failed attempts so far, and as I said earlier, the FBI, Secret Service and national law enforcement agencies are working together to piece this puzzle together so as to determine if this was one person, multiple people, and where these devices emanate from.
Sherwin, without speculating too much, but if we're thinking that it's a domestic terror incident, do we have an idea of what kind of groups would be responsible for such a thing? And I'm asking in the context of some commentators in the United States saying the president claiming that he's a nationalist, or finally using the word nationalist, the kind of rhetoric that you've spoken about, the plea for cooler temperatures, even when we've been seeing in the United States very partisan, very fiery debates in the public domain. Some people have said that this could lead to some groups feeling emboldened.
Look, I mean, this is a very divided political climate in the United States, and we are, as we always are in this country, in an election year. So the rhetoric is it's certainly at a peak level. We are 2 weeks away from an election. You hear the President of the United States speaking at his rallies. He talks about endorsing Congress people that have been convicted of body slamming journalists. His rhetoric against the media is quite negative. It's fake news. They're out to get him. It's all a witch hunt. And so there is a sense here that people are very angry. And so people will be turning out on November 6th, not necessarily based purely on the fact that they prefer one candidate over the other, but because they are very angry. You have liberal, Democrat, progressive groups in this country that are very angry at the rhetoric we see coming out of the White House. You have his supporters who feel that he's doing a fantastic job. I'm talking now about President Donald Trump, who feel very angry that the media is out to get their guy. So this is the platform or the foundation through which, and through the lens through which we need to see these bomb devices being sent. essentially to Democratic leaders. So this is kind of the space we are in right now, and this is why you heard from Andrew Cuomo and from Bill de Blasio calling for cooler heads, for cooler temperatures, and for a president that will unite rather than divide the American body politic as we speak.
Sherwin Bryce-Pease coming to us live from New York. They're giving us an update on those many devices that have been found in the last week or so.